Good evening, friends. Reading passages from Being Attention by Fran Shaw. We're going to read just a couple more passages from this book, maybe a few more nights, and then we'll be moving on to something else. Page 44. Passivity gives the impulse to work. Life helps so long as there is the look from above. I can never do it. I can never understand it. Passivity is what makes it possible to work. It gives the impulse to work. Seeing the poverty, thoughts, feelings. It's the human condition. I must be present to it. A channel can open more and more to allow the life force to come through. I can accept whatever is there and stay with that. There is an unknown part of the brain that can be activated. It takes concentration again and again. Just stay, just be. To accept oneself no matter how one is, it is a very great thing. Okay, so life helps so long as there is the look from above. The look, capital L, from above, capital A. The look from above is the witness, the observer, that witness consciousness that looks down from above, that witnesses our lives as we are. I, quote unquote, I can never, quote unquote, do it. I can never understand it. The I is the mind, the separate self-consciousness. The body-mind can never do it. It can't do the looking, can't do the being, can't do the seeing. I can never understand it. The body-mind, ego, separate self-consciousness can never understand it because it's beyond the concept of the mind. It's outside of the mind. It's transcendent of the mind, so the mind can't understand it. Passivity is what makes it possible to work. It gives the impulse to work. Passivity, which we discussed as the passive mind, the default mind, the identification with the idea of myself as a separate entity, as an identity as a conglomeration of memories, thoughts about the past and the future. Passivity, the passive mind, makes it possible to work. It gives the impulse to work. How? Why? Why does it give the impulse to work? Seeing the poverty, the thoughts, feelings. Seeing the poverty, thoughts, feelings. It's the human condition. So the passive mind makes it possible to do the work because it gives the impulse to do the work because we see our poverty, we see the condition of man, of human beings. We see the poverty of identifying as a self. We see the suffering. We experience the suffering that comes from identifying as a separate self, as an identity that craves pleasure and has an aversion to pain, that is lost in regrets from the past and is consumed by thoughts about the future. We see the poverty of this, of the thoughts and the feelings of this passive mind, of this default self. We see it's the human condition. This is the human condition, to be locked into the matrix of identity. I must be present to it. You can't transcend it before being present to it. That's what this work is all saying. I must be present to it. We must be present to the human condition as it expresses itself in ourselves. Then a channel can open more and more to allow force of life to come through, this subtle energy that we've been talking about, prana, chi, shakti. A channel can open more and more to allow this life force, this force of life, to come through. I can accept whatever is there and stay with that, right? I can just accept whatever is here, whatever is happening in my body, mind, consciousness, in my default passive mind consciousness. I can accept whatever is here and stay with that. Just observe, just start to cultivate that witness, that observer inside myself that can see, right? The seeing that happens. Then there's an unknown part of the brain that can be activated. An unknown part of the brain, right? Like this magic wand of attention, this other part of the brain that is not being used generally can be activated. But it takes concentration. Again and again and again, again and again and again. Coming to witness, to observe, and find that silent mind that can see and that allows this finer life force to come through. We can't make it happen. We become aware to it. We open to it. We open to presence. We open to the sacred. We open to the divine in each moment. That's always here, but we can't generally experience it. Just stay, just be. Just stay, just be. If we just stay with ourselves as we are in that witness consciousness, and then we can just be. We can just be being. This animal, this life form, breathing in and out, rising and falling of breath, sensations, receiving impressions. And presence comes. To accept oneself no matter how one is, it is a very great thing. To accept oneself no matter how one is, it is a very great thing when we can come to that acceptance where we're not striving, we're not trying to change, we're not judging, we're just accepting and embracing ourselves as we are in the moment. This is actually a very, very great thing. This is two passages from, or a passage from Jean-Claude Lubchansky. The attention needs to be free. It needs to be very strong in order to be, not to be distracted by associations or outer events. There is an external silence and an inner silence. With an inner silence, a higher energy can come down from above, and I can function, think, speak from this intelligence. Work is not something you can, quote unquote, do. The higher energy does the work. One has to open to it and allow it to flow, to penetrate one's being. The most important thing, it is to let the higher energy manifest in me so that all my functions serve the light. Jean-Claude Lubchansky. So the attention needs to be free. This attention, when we talk about freedom in the present moment, freedom with the being in the unknown and the great mystery, the attention needs to be free. Free from identification, free from being co-opted by the body, mind, ego. The attention needs to be free. It needs to be very strong in order not to be distracted by associations and outer events. We're working to cultivate a very strong attention so that it's not distracted by associations, by identifications, or outer events. That the attention can run strong through all interactions at all times. There's an external silence, this external silence right here. And there's an inner silence. With an inner silence, a higher energy can come down from above. The inner silence, the silent mind, the passive mind and the silent mind. With the inner silence, the silent mind, a higher energy can come down from above, right? This is what we keep saying. This energy, this life force, this prana, chi, shakti, in Hebrew, shefa, this divine light, this light of spirit that's shining at all points, the love of God. With an inner silence, this higher energy can come down from above, quote unquote above. And I can function, think, speak from this intelligence. Right? So this higher energy, synonymous with this higher intelligence. And when we integrate with it, when we unite with it, when we become this, we relieve ourselves from the blocks from this, and we be this, then we can function, think, and speak from this intelligence, as this intelligence. Work is not something you can do, quote unquote, do. You can't do it, right? The I, the ego, the body, mind, the thoughts can't do this work. The higher energy does the work, right? So the consciousness, the presence, the awareness, the attention does the work. It does the work in us, through us. One who has to open to it. We just have to open to it and allow it to flow, to penetrate our beings. This divine light, this sacred energy. Just need to open to it and let it penetrate our beings. And then we can be it, speak from it, speak as it. Sometimes when we pray that God speaks through us. In Hebrew we say, Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai sifatai tiftach. God, open up my lips, open up my mouth. Ufi yagid tehilatecha. And my mouth will my mouth will speak your praises. So we pray to God to open us, to speak through us, to speak the magic, the mystery, the love, the awesomeness, the wonder, the splendor of creation, of existence. We pray to open ourselves and to be that and speak from that. That is a deep prayer, deep Jewish prayer. That we speak as the sacred, as sacred creation, in awe of our Creator, in service to our Creator, creation and service to Creator, speaking praises of our Creator as creation, not as body, mind, not as I, not as ego, not as thought. Creation speaking praises. The most important thing, question mark, what's the most important thing? It's to let the higher energy manifest in me so that all my functions serve the light, right? Just as I was saying, let this higher energy, this soul, spiritual life force, spiritual energy manifest in me as me so that all my functions serve the light, that I just become completely merged with the light. My identity as soul takes the lead. I become merged, my identity with my soul, as this counterpart to the divine, this extension of the divine creation, spirit embodied. So that all my functions serve the light. All my functions, my thoughts, speech, and action, they all serve the light. That's what we're here to do. That's what we're here to be, servants of the divine. Final passage for tonight. There is the passive of the earth and the subtle, a mystery unknown, from very high, free from all the influences of the earth. Ordinary intelligence pretends to know. One moment one is in the subtle energy, but then it gets mixed with the ordinary. And then it strikes like a knife. And arrogance. See that? The work is not for me. We have outgrown that. There can be a very active part in us from a higher part of the mind. Needs exercising again and again. Stability and movement is the challenge. To stay without rigidity is also the challenge. Either one forgets completely and the room gets loud, or one says nothing but is in one's thoughts. Watchfulness, to see what takes me away so I can return, so the finer energy can appear and not overwhelm. A radiance that penetrates more and more deeply. Beautiful. So there is the passive of the earth, right? The passive mind, as we've been talking about, the default mind, and then there's the subtle. The subtle is a mystery, the unknown, the mystery of where are we, the mystery of what are we. A mystery unknown from very high, spiritually high, free from all the influences of the earth. That's why they say high, right? Because it's the concept of a higher energy. And a higher energy is free from all the influences of the earth. It's a spiritual energy, a spiritual consciousness that is free from the influences, the limitations of the earth and the default mind, the passive mind. So the subtle, great mystery, the great unknown, from very high, free from all the influences of the earth, influences of the mundane, of the physical reality as we know it. Ordinary intelligence pretends to know, right? Ordinary intelligence. The mind and its ideas and its intellectualizing pretends to know what we're talking about. One moment, one is in the subtle energy, but then it gets mixed with the ordinary. And then it strikes like a knife. An arrogance, an expression of arrogance. See that, right? So ordinary intelligence pretends to know. One moment, one is in that subtle energy, is connected to the divine, to the soul, but then it gets mixed with the ordinary, with the default mind, with the separate self-consciousness, and then an expression from that consciousness comes, that separate self, an arrogance, for example. The work is not for me. It's not for me. It's not for my personal self, my personal identity, my personal self. We have outgrown that. It's not for me. It is for God, right? It's for the universe, as we talked about in the Ashlag teachings. That highest level of to receive in order to give is that you're not receiving for you. You're receiving to give pleasure to the Creator, or to fulfill the will of the Creator, because the Creator has created us to receive. So we're doing it not for me, we're doing it for God. We have outgrown that. We've outgrown the old way of doing it for me. So there can be a very active part in us from a higher part of mind, right? That we talked about in the last passage, the higher part of the mind that is unknown. This higher part of the mind, this consciousness, awareness, attention, it needs exercising again and again and again. Stability and movement is the challenge, right? It's easier to do this when seated by oneself, but stability and movement, stabilizing this attention, this awareness when you're moving through the world, it's a great challenge. To stay in this awareness and attention without rigidity, without being rigid and like clenching and gripping onto it. This is also the challenge. Either one forgets completely and the room gets loud, we get distracted by what's going on externally, or one says nothing, one doesn't engage in the world and default interactions from ego and separate self-consciousness, but one is in one's thoughts. So one is in the inner world gets loud. Watchfulness. We need this. We need to cultivate watchfulness to see what takes me away so I can return. To see what takes me away from attention, awareness, and presence so I can return. So the finer energy can appear again. So that spiritual energy can appear again. So the consciousness, the presence, the divine energy can appear again and not overwhelm and consume us in a different kind of distraction of getting overwhelmed by the divine energy and the present moment, but a grounded relationship with it, a grounded integration, a radiance that penetrates more and more deeply, a grounded radiance of this light can shine through us. That's why we say of the spiritual saints that they shine with the light of God, because they're so merged with, they're so united with the divine. They've worked to burn through the layers of ego and separate self-identity, all the default expressions of the mind and the identity, and they've merged with spirit. They've spent so much of their focus and intention and attention to be in union with the divine, to know God, to remember God, to remember the unity, constantly practicing in the world of distractions, in the world of the mundane, in the world of the matrix, constantly practicing to remember God, remember the unity, and be in attention, awareness, and presence. So much so that they radiate this light. Union with the light and then radiating the light. That's how we transform consciousness. That's how we transform the planet. Not by thinking and working from mind to change the world externally. We change the world by changing our inner landscape to become united with the light, to be radiating that light. When we radiate the light of God, that transforms consciousness, the collective consciousness, those around us who we interact with. We don't have to do anything. It's all through our being. It's so simple. So simple. So may you be blessed to continue to practice, to open to spirit, to open to presence, to embrace attention and awareness deeper and deeper so that you radiate the light of God out into the world. Have a wonderful night.